Well, thank you very much. Once again, my name is Renee Starling, and I am a lover of textiles, as you can see. And I'm here today to talk about pockets, the history of where we put our stuff. And I do like conversational kind of presentations. So if you have any questions as we're going through, please feel free to just pop in, ask questions, and go down whatever rabbit hole we particularly like to go down. Thank you for asking. So to kind of start off, who's got pockets in their outfit right now? Who has things in their pockets right now? Who also brought an additional bag to carry more stuff? Well, that is not, you are not alone. A survey 2021 says, generally speaking, when we're talking about women, about 81% of us do carry around an extra bag to hold our stuff. I'm starting to see the kind. Lucy Lockett lost her pocket. Kitty Fisher found it. There was not a penny in it, but a ribbon around it. And I don't know about you all, but when I was little, I really had the concept of how one could lose a pocket. They were very well secured within my pants or skirt, jacket, or whatever. So this didn't make a lot of sense to me. But the truth is, for the largest part of human history, we haven't carried things in pockets of a person. We have carried them in purses, pouches, various other little baggies that we would keep on ourselves. And then we have a couple of examples here. We have a lovely Tudor era embroidered pouch here. We've got the little lovely Renaissance velvet as there. And then we have this medieval reproduction when you see this lady is wearing on her belt. And that was very, very common. You keep your possessions close to you, but they weren't necessarily fully attached to you. And why was this? Because for a lot of human history, particularly the European area, we didn't have too many places to put pockets. If you've ever wondered why we call that garment there a pair of pants, it is for this reason. This is a gentleman wearing medieval style hose, and each of these legs is an independent garment. You would have one go to that you would then attach to each other, basically with a piece of yarn or some other kind of rope type thing, and you would sew them together to create a pair of hose. This particular gentleman has a waistband that he is attaching his to, but a gentleman might also sew his hose to attach to his jerkin or his doublet that he was wearing. You can see it here on this Renaissance era pair of pantaloons. He's got his two hose tied together right across the front that he is then covering with a codpiece. Ladies would be very similar in that we would tie our clothing onto us. In this particular skirt, petticoat, it's kind of an apron closure. So I pull it on and tie the back in my front, and then I tie the front in my back. So not too many places to put a pocket. But in the mid-17th century, men's fashion changes. Men go to a single garment, trousers or breeches, and that creates an opportunity to put a pocket into your garment. Some men have nice pockets like you would have in your trousers today. They also have little places to put their watches and such. But what about the ladies? Well, around this time, women do also have a bit of a pocket revolution. But we get this. This is a pair of what we call tie-on pockets, and it is an independent article of clothing that women will have basically a 200-year love affair again. Okay. So here's a couple of different types of pockets. They come in all shapes and sizes. And I have a couple over here as well. We have our basic single pocket that would tie around the waist right here. They can come in doubles, like we have here. And you can see that they're not just an article of clothing that's utilitarian, but they're also an opportunity for a woman to show off a little bit of her skills as a seamstress and as a homemaker. Over here, we've got a little patchwork pocket to show her ability to sew. We have a white work pocket over here, which is a single color fabric But there's stitching in here, embroidery, so she can show off her skills and get some practice in here. Over here we have a couple of embroidered pockets to show, again, off your needlework skills. And this was a great opportunity for a young girl to practice because it was something that necessarily wouldn't be out and seen a whole lot, but maybe she can get some practice in. Pockets can also be highly utilitarian items. Right over here we have a pair of pockets that are made from basic mattress ticking. So something nice and hard wearing that you don't mind getting a little bit dirty things. Other types of pockets, we have pocket hoops. So if you really want to hold some stuff, I've seen women at events put snacks, phones, keys, wallets, bottles of wine. You can fit a lot of good stuff in these pockets. And here's an example, this is a picture from the Victorian Albert Museum that shows how pockets were typically worn. As you can see, this yellow pocket right here, it's worn underneath a lot of the outerwear. So we have the woman's chemise, which is basically her underwear. The pocket goes right on top of that. And then she would have her any hooch that she's wearing. And then over that would go her petticoat. Here's a bit of a better close-up view of it. And you can see right about here is where you would have your petticoats tied together. So you can actually access your pocket right through your skirts. And that's how you would get to your things. Now these yellow silk pockets that you saw in that Victorian Albert picture are kind of interesting because we know that silk belongs to the upper classes. Not going to be a working class woman and typically have silk pockets. The other interesting thing about these pockets is that they're a matching set with this bodice. The other interesting thing about yellow silk is that's not something you wear if you're not going to expect it to be seen. It's expensive, it's a luxurious fabric, and so with that and the bodice, this tells us that this was a garment that was made to be seen. This bodice would have been a support garment that you wear when you're lounging around in bed. You don't feel like putting on your stays or your corset, not trusted. You want to be a bit more relaxed, but still have support. So this kind of goes to show an interesting place that pockets falls in women's wardrobes. It sits as an interior garment, an undergarment, but also at some points it is an outer garment as well. And where we really kind of see that pop up is in a class divide between upper class and lower class ladies. On the right, we have upper class lady, very obviously, she's got the nice poofy wig, the nice white dress. But we can see right here, there is a pocket slit where she can access her pocketing. On the right-hand side, we have a working class woman, a fishmonger. She wears her pocket right outside, very easily accessible, so she can keep everything she needs for her day-to-day work. She's probably wearing an interior pocket as well for more private items. But again, it's an outer garment. And this is kind of where what really makes a pocket interesting is because when we start looking at pockets and how they're used, it tells us a lot about the everyday life of women back in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. Now, why is this important? This is important because we honestly don't have a lot of information about the everyday woman in this time period. This is a census from 1790, and if you look at this census page, you're not going to see a single woman's name. Up until the 1800s, the only name you had on the census was the head of the house. So we have very little information about what women lived in this particular area, if they had any occupations, how old they were, anything like that. Women also had very few legal rights in comparison to today. And so they're not mentioned as often in wills, deeds, public records. So again, we have very little information about day-to-day work that they were doing. Where pockets comes in is in the records of criminal court proceedings, which is interesting, because it's one of the few places where we do have these legal records of everyday women. Because when we go to the police and to the court, when their pockets were stolen, and so we have lists of everything that they had on the thing that fortunately happened. But fortunately for us, it gives us insight into what they were carrying, what was important to them, and how their the daily lives were conducted. Now, this was very important for women of the working class in particular, because of their relatively low legal standing. A pocket might be the only place that a woman could call truly privately her own, and she would carry most dear possessions in it. This is a engraving from Parliament's Progress from England in, I believe it is the early 1700s. And this is an image of a young girl coming in from the countryside with everything that she owns in the world. And what's most precious is going to be kept in her pockets, and that's something called her character. As a young woman going from city to city looking for work, your character was your reference. It was a letter from perhaps your local reverend, a former employer. It might be a letter of introduction, but it would be something to vouch for your character. So she would want to keep it as close to her as absolutely possible. And through that, we also see that pockets gradually start becoming kind of a shorthand for a woman's morality. In these two images, we have we have a little girl and we have a young working woman. And both of them are portrayed very plainly, very neatly. Her pocket is out, so we know she's a working woman, but her overall appearance is very neat and tidy, so she would be considered a woman of upright morals and good standing. In this particular painting, this is called Portrait of Sir Francis Ford's Children Giving a Coin to a Beggar Boy. And we can see her pocket right here. So she has pulled out this coin to hand off to less fortunate to show that this family has instilled a sense of charity in their children. On the other end of the scale, we have this engraving called the waltz. Now, if you're not familiar with the history of the waltz, you may not know that in the early 1800s, it was considered one of the most scandalous dances to ever hit Regency England. It was imported from the French, which of course was scandalous of its own, and very much loved by the Prince Regent, who was very much a playboy of that day. The waltz, the reason it was so scandalous is because the waltz is a closed couple dance. Previously, we did have couples dance. It was like the minuet. We would hold hands with your partner and gaze longingly from afar to each other as you slowly propagated your way down the hall. The waltz was a closed embrace. So in an era where a young lady should be chaperoned, she was now very close to another young gentleman and could say all manner of things, arranging rendezvous or whispering sweet nothings or promises to each other. And we see here bedlam breaking out. This is a dance hall in London, and we have all sorts of things going on. We have a young lady down here being scolded by her chaperone, and we see her pocket sitting outside her outfit with a note tucked inside. We have another young lady being perhaps consoled, or she may be scolded as well. But we also have a bottle pocket poking out of this pocket slit, implying perhaps the chaperone was maybe drinking on the job, not keeping quite such a close look on things. Over here, we have pockets simply strewn on the floor. Morality cast aside, everything's going crazy. We even have two cat and dog fighting here in the background. So, these pockets, disordered pockets, the women who are associated with them are moralist harlots, not the sort of ladies that any fine upstanding family would want to be in. Pockets also came into the political. Have anyone here seen Duchess starring here in It's a great, if you're into costume novels, it's a great one. It's all about the life of Georgiana Cavendish, the Duchess of Devonshire. And for her time, she was perhaps uniquely involved in politics. She financed a lot of politicians in the Whig Party, which is kind of a rabble-rousy, up-and-coming party that had some rather anti-monarchical, anti-royalty stances. Just to give you some context, this is during around the time of the American Revolution, so not necessarily the best stance to be taking anymore. But she did. She was particularly associated with a politician named Charles Fox. She financed a lot of his campaigns. And of course, his political opponents were happy to jump on her as a way of getting to him. In this particular cartoon, we have a little fox head poking out of Georgiana's pocket slit right here, implying, of course, that Mr. Charles Fox is a politician hiding in her pocket.
Good.
If you look even more closely, down here, and this might be a little hard to see from on this screen, but there is the little foxtail poking out from the bottom of her skirts between her legs. And I'm sure you guys can infer what they were saying about the Duchess and Mr. Fox. That poking around. On the right-hand side, we have another example of this. We have Queen Adelaide, who was the queen consort of King William IV. He was the king right before Victoria. And she, that was for the Whigs, was very much a Tory. She was on the side of the landed gentry. And while she was generally a popular queen, there was one act that she was kind of on the wrong side of history, looking back. The Reform Act in 1838, I believe it was, which was a law that would have enfranchised a lot of young men to England, taking power away from the landed gentry and putting it more into the urban centers where there were more men who would then be able to vote. She was against this. She was landed gentry. She wanted power to stay with the landed gentry. So in this image, we have the head of her husband, the king, poking out of her pocket. Of course, inferring that the real power of the throne was not the king, but the queen, because the king is hiding in his skirts, like a little boy hiding behind the skirts of his mother. So the tie-on pocket, so we had that for a good 150, 200 years, before we kind of hit what some people start calling the decline of the tie-on pocket. So this hits around the year 1800 with the rise of the reticule. We have our Jane Austen era coming in. We got the rediscovery of Greece and Rome. Archaeology starting to kick off. We're finding all these beautiful Greece and Roman statues with these long diaphanous gowns that the women are wearing, and that influences popular culture. So we see our hemlines raised from our waistlines go through our waist up into our bust to get that umpire waist that you see in all the Jane Austen movies. And it's very difficult if you're wearing light loose diaphanous gowns to wear a pocket because you'll have this rather unsightly bulge on the side. And so women start carrying around what they call a reticule. Some people say that is because they were ridiculously small, but that's what they are called. That's not to say that pockets went away. We actually do have examples of Regency era pockets. As you can see, they are very long in comparison, and they tie up here at the natural waist, but still have the pockets let down here where they used to be. Generally speaking, these would probably have been worn during the day for upper class women when they were wearing dresses that were made of wool or heavier cottons rather than the light diaphanous stuff. But then we move into the 1830s and our waistlines start dropping back down and the tie-on pocket makes a return. This is the Workwoman's Guide from 1838, and we see a pattern for a tie-on pocket. But we also start seeing patterns for inseam pockets. This particular type of pocket would attach to a woman's skirt's waistband, and then you would be able to just reach in and grab your stuff. As we move through the 19th century, we start seeing pockets transition again. We have some novelty type pockets. This is a dress from the 1860s, where they have an exterior pocket just to put your parasol in when you're walking around. The tie-on pocket continues to exist, but we see it shift from an everyday item to be more of a travel item. It's marketed towards women who are now traveling. So we have the expansion of the railway, and people are just moving more than they ever have before. This particular one is a traveler's pocket in the 1870s. And then over here we have this particular London catalog advertising underskirt bags for travelers, right alongside their metal trunks, their holder-ons, hat boxes, and various other hampers. But essentially, still a tie-on pocket. When we get to the 20th century, the early 20th century, this is back in 1902, pockets as tie-ons have generally disappeared for the upper class, middle and upper classes. This particular dress has a pocket piece in the pattern, so you will now have the inseam pocket. Still good size though. These pockets are still, about that deep, so you can still put a lot of stuff into them. But this kind of changes once we hit about the 1910s. We start getting the long middle lines, the more boyish figures. And part of that is due to World War I, when women are having to get outside the home and take on the work that is needing to be done since the men are off fighting in Europe. That, of course, also brings rationing. So between rationing and just the need for additional mobility, dresses get more streamlined, less fabric, less places to put pockets, and so women start carrying around bags. And we kind of see this through the early part of the 20th century as we go into the 1830s. Have, of course, the Depression, where the fabric is still expensive, so we use less of it. World War II, again, women have to get out into the workforce more, and we have fabric rationing. Once we hit the 1950s, that goes away. We get the fuller skirts again, but by that point, we've transitioned to kind of a bag economy, where women are using purses not just as places to hold things, but also as status symbols. Birkin bags, pretty much any luxury brand has branded handbags that women like to collect and get and kind of show with their personal styles. We also see a transition from natural fibers over into synthetic fibers in the latter half of the 20th century. We have lots of polyester coming in, rayon, things that are very, again, light and flowy and not really designed to have being weighed down by things in our pocket. But the spirit of the tie-on pocket does continue to live on with the introduction of the fanny pack and the crossbody bag, which I think is just a fanny pack with some rebranding. But the spirit is still there. A place to easily put our stuff that we can take wherever we like and keep it with us. So, get talked. Anyone have any questions? Anything that you touch on you'd like clarified, or? I need a parasol pocket. That was cool.
I know.
Like, that's cool. And the next time I raise, I'm so good. Yes, and yes. That was amazing.